Good afternoon again, everyone. My name is Sean Charles. I'm the director for the Office of Supplier Diversity with the City of New Orleans. Thank you all so much for joining us today, and welcome to Coding for Contracts, Understanding Commodity Codes and Capability Statements. Before we get started, just want to let you all know if you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop those in the chat, and at the end of today's presentation, we'll be happy to answer any question pertaining to the information that's been presented today. So accompanying me for the presentation today from the Office of Supply Diversity is Ms. LaSabra Ventris, our Certification Program Manager. And from Thrive NOLA is Ms. Bernadette Carrier, Director of Thrive Green Projects and Partnerships. So please join me in welcoming our accompanying participants. All right, so why today's presentation is so important. So oftentimes, as we are in the community and listening to our small business owners, we get concerns or questions about businesses who have completed their SLDBE or their LAUCP certification. They're preparing to do business with the city. They're ready. They've got registered in BRAS, and they just say, well, I haven't had any solicitations come my way. I haven't even received any communication from the city. How does this program work? What is the issue? And so we were concerned about those inquiries, and we looked into it a little deeper. And what we found is in some cases, our business owners, while they've done the necessary preparation, they've gotten their business certified, they've registered in BRAS, there's a slight disconnect. We found that in some cases, business owners have not utilized the appropriate coding when it comes to BRAS or even in B2G Now. I'll give you just a small example. It's a real world example. This happened, and unfortunately, the firm lost out. So here recently, it's summertime, right? You know, New Orleans is full of NORD establishments. We have, I don't know how many NORD facilities, but when you think about pool supplies, that's a lot. And so there was a small business owner, one of our DBE vendors, who tried to compete for one of our set-aside events, responded. They were confident that they could provide the supplies. They were a supplier, but the unfortunate thing is they didn't have the proper coding. So in the procurement process, the buyers in our purchasing department will contact the Office of Supplier Diversity to confirm that the business is in fact a registered DBE and that they're registered and certified under the appropriate codes, right? And so in this case, unfortunately, we found that while the vendor was in fact a supplier and could in fact provide the service, they were not listed with the proper code. And so unfortunately, they lost out. They missed out on that event. So that is why I think today's presentation is so important, because if it happened to that one vendor, I am certain that it has happened to others, and we are trying to ensure that it does not continue to happen. So we pulled this presentation together for our small business community. And I don't think I said it in the beginning, but today's session is being recorded, and we will share a link with you all after the session, in case you just want to hear the information again, or for anyone who may have missed this and you want to share it with them. So I'll go ahead and jump right into our presentation. All right. So this is an introduction to the office, and I'm going to turn my camera off so that I don't distract anyone. All right. And so you should see my full screen now. And so again, this is the introduction to the Office of Supply Diversity and our EBO program. All right. So the Equitable Business Opportunities Program is administered through the Office of Supply Diversity. Now, this program was basically established to help with the past effects and present of social and economic discrimination by increasing opportunities for our small businesses to do business with the city. All right, here's our mission and vision statement. And so our mission essentially is that we are dedicated to creating programs and implementing policies and procedures to assist your disadvantaged business and to ultimately connect you to city contracts. And our vision is that we want to develop a national model to share with other local governments, and they can follow what we've done here in the city of New Orleans. Now, the Office of Supplier Diversity is composed of three components. That's certification, and you'll hear a little bit more from our certification manager later. Compliance, that's where we make certain that the contract process is compliant with our city ordinance and our city rules and regulations and that we're following policy as it relates to all of the city's contracts. It's one thing to put a program in place, but it's another thing to actually follow the rules and regulations that have been established. And so that's where our compliance team comes in. We want to ensure that when our small businesses do obtain contracts with the city, and sometimes it may be directly with the city as a prime or through a subcontract, we want to ensure that they are treated fairly and that everything is by the letter. And lastly, we have capacity building and outreach. And that's what we're doing today. We've reached out to the community. We were made aware of a concern, and we're trying to ensure that you all are armed with the knowledge and information you need to operate your business successfully. Um, I skipped over certification slightly, thinking that my certification manager was going to cover that topic, but that's not the goal of today's presentation. So I'll talk briefly about certifications, and certainly if anyone has any questions, drop those in the chat, and we'll be happy to point you in the right direction. But the city's program is usually comprised of SLDBE certified business owners as well as LAUCP certified business owners. And the certification that the city offers, of course, is the state and local disadvantaged business enterprise certification. If you are not certified, we'd be happy to share some information with you about the certification and to see if your business is eligible. But right now, the city does have a 35% participation goal. And what that means is on all eligible city contracts, we must have 35%, at least 35% DBE participation. So your city leaders, your council, your mayor, they understand that small businesses don't always have, or they're not properly situated and don't have access to contracts. So they pass the ordinance, put that in place, and my office ensures that 35% DBE goal participation is on every eligible city contract. But in order to participate in that program, your business has to be SLDBE certified or LAUCP certified. So I've talked a lot about our program today. And at this point, I am going to turn it over for the reason that you are all here to hear from our certification manager, Ms. LaSabra Ventures, who's going to cover the NAICS, NAICS codes, NIGP codes, and it's basically to help you all understand the importance of having the appropriate codes in brass and how to request a change to your SLDBE certification listing in B2G Now. So without further ado, Ms. LaSabra Ventures.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you for the introduction. All right, so we'll just go ahead and get started. So NAICS is short for the North American Industry Classification System, which is the standard used by federal agencies to classify business establishments. And so these codes categorize businesses by their primary economic activity, and they're used to organize and analyze economic trends. So businesses that are interested in finding their NAICS codes can search on the U.S. Census Bureau's NAICS website. But for the purpose of the SLDBE certification, businesses are granted certification based on their service offerings that they're capable of providing. And so once you're certified, you'll receive a letter certifying your firm for services in both your NAICS codes and your NIGP code. Next slide, please. And so the National Institute of Governmental Purchasing, or NIGP codes, are standardized systems that are used to classify both goods and services for the procurement of government entities. So this is the system that the City of New Orleans and other state and local government agencies use to register vendors or suppliers, to solicit bids and track their spending. And so these codes are less general than your NICS system. So they have a specific five-digit number associated with the specific product or service. And so, for example, if your business provides project management or construction management services, but does not provide the labor, you want to be sure that you're selecting the correct code that will identify exactly what your area of expertise is. And so the Office of Supplier Diversity has now included NIGP suggestions on all SLDBE certification letters to ensure that vendors have accurate listings on their brass accounts. Next slide. So how can you update your service offerings for your existing SLDBE certification? Well, you can do so by submitting a change request through your DBE portal. And so this feature is available to active DBEs who are not up for a renewal at the time. So please be mindful that these functions are only available if you have an active certification on your record. And so if you're up for a renewal or a new DBE, you'll be asked to provide a list of current NICS and NIGP offerings in your application. So on the portal, you'll be looking for the certification center on your dashboard. It's highlighted with the red arrow. And so here you'll see a list of your current certifications, and you'll need to select the City of New Orleans certification, and you can do that in two ways. Next slide, please. So the first way is to simply click the blue hyperlink that's titled SLDBE under the certification type. Or if you're currently only certified with the City of New Orleans, you can expand the view column on the left-hand side and then select My Certification. So both of these methods will bring you to a listing of your current certifications. And from there, you'll see Submit a Change Request at the top of your screen. Next slide. Thank you. So using the change request feature will allow you to make changes to several aspects of your business, like your firm's name, your address, email, phone number, but you can also use this to request changes to your business offerings. So some of these changes do require documentation to be provided. And so in the case of an update to your business offerings, we do request that you provide an updated capability statement and copies of invoices and contracts detailing your additional services. And so in the event that your offerings have expanded and now require a professional license or certificate, please be sure to provide a copy of that licensure or certificate and also an inventory list of any equipment that's needed to provide the new services. But you can always contact our office before submitting your change request if you have any questions regarding which documentation to provide. But once you've attached your documentation, you can use the other changes box here below, and you'll be able to use that to detail your changes. And from there, you'll go on to review your request at the very bottom. So once you've reviewed your request, sorry, you can go over. So once you've reviewed your request, please be sure that you select the acknowledgement that you are providing accurate information and you are authorized to act on behalf of the firm. And then you'll need to save that information. So once you save the information, the request page will close and it'll bring you back to a listing of all of your change requests. And so that's it for me, but I'll pass it over to our partner at Thrive, Ms. Bernadette Carrier, to discuss capability statements and some key elements to include in them.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good. Hi, I'm Bernadette Carey with Thrive NOLA. So for starters, what is a capability statement? So a capability statement is a concise one-page document that outlines your business's core competencies, differentiators, and qualifications, which makes you essentially more marketable for these government agencies. Its purpose is to demonstrate your expertise. It communicates your value clearly, and it aligns with your business and government needs. Next slide. So why does it matter? And just as Ms. LeSabre, stated about the NACE codes and those things, all of these things, they're required for vendor registration and procurement opportunities. They're used by the procurement officers and prime contractors. It highlights your local and DBE disadvantaged businesses, enterprise credentials, and it helps small businesses compete for city contracts. And what we find in working with small businesses, a lot of businesses are excluded from opportunities just because they don't have these capability statements. We have found in my experience, people who have done, older businesses who've been in business for a while, they were in private sector and they're now venturing into capability statements to do business with the government. So what are the key elements of a capability statement? Next slide. So the core competencies, you need a clear, brief summary of services and the products offered. What are you offering? What do you do? If it's, your concrete work, cement work, labor, what is that? You want to really highlight yourself. and you want to focus on the capabilities relevant to the city contract that's being advertised. A lot of times we see capability statements where you read them, they look pretty, but where you're still unclear on what the business offers. So we want to make sure that it is defined. Next slide. What sets your business apart? What are those unique skills, technology, experience, those certifications? That's what the differentiators are. You want to make sure that is highlighted as well in a section of its own. Next slide, please. Your company data. So what is your legal business names? What is your DUNS number if applicable? Your telephone number, your business structure, year established, all of those things where you could be reached, right? And I know it sounds like it's not important, but it is. It's a no-brainer, but sometimes it's left out. Past performances. So what are the relevant contracts or projects completed, and the client's name if possible, and those outcomes. So a lot of times people will put, NORA on a capability statement, which is the New Orleans Redevelopment Authority. I mean, it's nice to put on there, but you don't want to list the job if it's a $750. You don't want to put the number if it's only, the amount was $750. You want to put those big jobs that set you apart, that shows that you're capable of doing big jobs. Next slide. So the certifications and registrations. So on those, so there are two, it's how we explain it in our business class. So there's the government side and the corporate side. On the government side, the certifications, DBE, SLDBE, there's 8A, there's WOSB, there's SB, VOSB, and there's more. But those are the ones you want to list under the government side. On the corporate side, you want to put MBE and WBE. And then you also want to list your SAM registration and your City of New Orleans vendor number. Next slide. And as LaSabre discussed previously, you have your NAICS codes, which are your North American Standard, Industry Classification System, and your NIGP code, which is your government purchasing codes. And these are for individuals who are supplying goods. Next slide. And again, just understanding what they are. So again, the NAICS code, it's for use SAM.gov registration and federal contracting. And then the NIGP codes are used by the state and local governments, including the City of New Orleans, to organize the procurement categories. And, one of the tips that I decided to put on here is just choose a code that aligns with what you're offering, and also the ones that are commonly used by the City of New Orleans. And obviously you want your capability statement to reach a national audience, but when you're specifically wanting to do business with a city, you want to make sure you highlight the ones that are most important to, the city. And then right here is where where you find the codes that are relevant to your business and the City of New Orleans vendor portal. Next slide, please. And I just wanted to put on here just what does a capability statement looks like. It's just something I pulled off the internet, but just who you are, what you're offering. And this is a basic capability statement. Just a company overview of what you do. You've been in business since 2000. You offer concrete or whatever it is. Whether it's your competencies, the restoration, reconstruction, demolition, project management, what that looks like, the differentiators, past experience, the company that you work for. And on this company, this client, he did list his certifications, the NAICS codes, company information, but the past clients, this is important because you do want to be seen as someone who can, do big scale work, like on a national level. Burger King, Taco Bell, those are national companies, but also the local companies are important too. They don't have the job amounts, but again, we want to highlight if it's a substantial dollar amount, we want you guys to list that as well. Next slide. And just tips for success. Keep it to one page. Use professional branding, your logo, consistent fonts. We want to tailor to the city of New Orleans needs. We want you to update it regularly, making sure those codes are up to date. If the city is looking for something specific now, your capability statement may not have been updated for past couple months, and you might be excluded from a job because you haven't updated, your qualifications to reflect that. We want to include keywords from typical cities, RFPs, and we want you to be ready to email or attach your business statement in brass. Next slide. And I don't have my contact information, but there it is.
That's okay. We've added it for you. Thank you so much, Bernadette. Thank you so much for that helpful presentation on capability statements and further emphasizing our NAICS codes and our NIGP codes and how businesses should use those. So on the screen here, you all see some resources and support. We have our Office of Supplier Diversity website. We have our email. That is the best way to get in touch with the Office of Supplier Diversity with the City of New Orleans, Supplier Diversity at NOLA.gov. And we have several individuals who monitor that email continually. So if you all have any questions, certainly you can give us a call, but for the best response is going to be that email address. And then at the bottom here, we have our B2G Now portal for certified DBEs. And LeSabre talked a great deal about that. If you need to make a change, that is going to be where you start. And then here on the next page, we have Miss Bernadette Carrier's contact information at thrivenola.org. We also have help for finding NIGP codes, which she talked about a little while ago. And then we have our Bureau of Purchasing's contact information. So we have their website, the email address. Again, that's one of the best ways to get in touch with the purchasing team. It's purchasingteam@nola.gov. And of course, their phone number is listed there. And I can attest to it. They are monitoring that email and they are monitoring those phone lines. And they have committed to get back to anyone who reaches out to them within 48 hours. So I strongly encourage you to reach out if you have any questions or concerns. And then last but certainly not least, we have our brass apologies. We have our brass supplier portal, which is where our small businesses can go and register their firms to ensure that you get notice of any solicitations or any business that the city needs.